Good evening. Welcome to Rugby Borough Council's Licensing and Safety Committee meeting this Tuesday the 27th of February. I am Councillor Julia Barrow, Chair of this committee. The meeting is being web streamed to the public through the Council's YouTube channel. During the meeting, if you wish to speak, please use the push to talk button on the microphone in front of you. This will allow the camera to pan in your general direction. Before we begin the formal agenda, I am obliged to read out the following fire notice. There is no fire drill scheduled in the building this evening. If the fire alarm sounds, then please could I ask that you make your way out of the building, down the main staircase and out of the main doors of the Town Hall and congregate at the entrance to Caldecott Park. An officer of the council will give instructions on when it is safe to return to the building. Moving on to the agenda, the first item of business is to approve the minutes of the meetings listed on the agenda. Could I have a proposer and a seconder if you're in agreement, please, members? Right, thank you. Second item is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Dale Keeling and Councillor John Keeling as well, but no substitutes.
Thank you. Moving on, declarations of interest. To receive declarations of interest as defined by the Council's Code of Conduct for Councillors. A. Non-pecuniary interests.
Yes, I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary as I'm a councillor for part of the Town Centre ward.
I'd declare interest for the same reason.
Thank you. B. Pecuniary interests. Yep. And C. Notice under Section 106, Local Government Finance Act 1992, non-payment of community charge or council tax. Yep. So item 4 on the agenda is the approval of the consultation for the proposed designated streets. Can I ask the officer, Emma, to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Street trading is governed by the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1982. Under the Act, streets may be designated as prohibited, licence or consent streets. At this stage, it is proposed that consultation be undertaken for the designation of streets under the Act. The Council proposes to designate Marketplace Town Centre, Sheep Street Town Centre and High Street Town Centre as licensed streets, with the remaining streets in the borough being consent streets. When dealing with licensed streets and consent streets, the difference falls with how the applications are granted or refused. For consent streets, the Council is under no duty to grant consent and does not need to specify any statutory grounds for refusal. In respect of a licensed street, the Council is obligated to grant a licence unless an application ought to be refused on one or more of the statutory grounds as set out in Schedule 4 of the Act. The consultation, if approved, will allow opportunity for constructive objections to be submitted and, if appropriate, a more robust approach pursued. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions regarding this report? Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. So I think it's 2.9 indicates that the next sort of stage of this is essentially what brings the previous policy, which has been approved, into effect. So it has a relationship with that previous policy, which has been approved by this committee, but that's not going forward to council. It's only this step that's going to council. Is that correct?
So the previous policy has also been approved by council.
So So in the last meeting that we had of this group, this committee, we looked at the consultation feedback, which indicated that some people had concerns about being able to pay, which we discussed here. Have those concerns gone forward to council? Is council aware of that when making the decision on this final stage of it? Because it's not reflected in this equality impact assessment or this report. I just want to know that council has cited on that consultation feedback.
Sorry to keep you waiting, Councillor.
Through the Chair, for clarification, I think your question is basically the responses to the consultation on the original policy that was considered by the last licensing committee prior to going on to council. Was the consultation, the responses, part of the report that went to council? So in other words, were they considered again? Is that the essence of it?
Hello. Yes, essentially, and it was my understanding when we had the last meeting here at committee that the actual proposal wasn't going to full council, that the decision had been made here. So what I'm trying to understand is whether at any point in terms of the decision-making process, the actual consultation that we did, whether council have had sight on that or not. So I don't think that they have.
Thank you, Councillor. This committee acts as a subcommittee for the full council. So the report is attached to the documents that go to full council and the minutes are available. As I remember it, the only comment about the fees was from one of the stakeholders. It wasn't actually one of the market traders. Do we have any more questions? I'll just ask the legal officer if there's anything that she'd like to clarify.
I have to say I'm a little bit in a difficult position because I wasn't in attendance at any of the previous ones. My understanding was that this has been adopted, the policy has been adopted by council following consideration by the licensing committee who agreed to adopt it, so it went on to council. Now, my understanding from having spoken to my fellow officers is that the only issue before this committee is the designation of the streets. I can totally understand your question with regard to that, but my understanding is that has been, as part of the democratic process, that has been considered by this licensing committee and then by full council, so therefore we're on to the next stage. I hope that clarifies it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just checking the minutes, Councillor, and actually it does comment, as you have just said. There were no objections raised by street traders, but comments had been received from Rugby First. That is in the minutes. Councillor Strug.
Thank you. We are talking about the representation by end of the next month. If there is any representation, will we know about it? What's it all about? Talking of this report, there will be somebody want representation by 28th of March. Is it for public? Is it for what?
It says in the report that if in the opinion of the Chief Officer of Regulation and Safety and the Licensing and Parking Manager, there are no valid material objections that require further consideration. So if there was something that required further consideration, it would come back to us. But if not, it would then be recommended to full council for adoption.
My point is this. This consultation is about a lot of public is going to be affected if we extend it. So I don't know whether public representation is also a part of this.
Yes, it is to publish in the local newspaper. The publication is attached to the report.
Chair, if I can just clarify one point. Any valid or material objections would only be in relation to the designation for streets. It wouldn't be in relation to the policy that's already been adopted. So if there was through the consultation, somebody came back and commented in relation to the policy, that's already been adopted. The consultation period has expired and it's been adopted by licensing and subsequently council. So the only material objections that could be considered would be in relation to the designation of the streets as set out in this report. So I think it would be fair to say that it would be a very limited objection. I hope that clarifies.
Thank you. I just have one question for the officer. Is there going to be time for this to be published in the local paper?
Yes, Chair, I did run this through our communications team, so I'm going to send the notice out tonight to be published in time for Friday.
Are we ready to take a vote on this, members? Yes? If I could have a show of hands then for those in favour for the consultation. Any against? Abstentions? Thank you. That motion is carried. Could you stop the live streaming, please?